Welcome, everyone, um, to the Center for the Women of New York. Here to the Financial Literacy Series. This is workshop number 6. It's a continuation of our female financial freedom. Today, we're going to talk about budgeting, the foundation of financial planning. It's hosted by me, Cecilia Venosta-Weigel. I just changed positions. Our last event, I was vice president and chair of programs committee. Our guest speaker is Kathy Carroll. Hello, Kathy. Nice to have you again, and thank you so much for continuing to present this wonderful series of financial literacy.
You're welcome.
So as many of you know, the Center for the Women of New York advocates for women's rights and full equality since 1987. We have been empowering women to reach their full potential by offering services that provide the skills, information, and support they need to address economic, emotional, and legal challenges. Given the vast needs due to the pandemic in 2021, CWNY's focus this year is women's health and well-being. When we say health, women's physical as well as mental, and also women's financial independence. CWNY offers educational programs as well as support services and classes. Educational outreach such as panel discussions and webinars on topics such as domestic violence, trafficking awareness, health and wellness, financial literacy and independence, and career advancement. Our services are a caregiver support group for those who take care of elderly family members or friends. We have a women in crisis support group, English as second language classes, fitness classes, and referrals. Our upcoming events are a nutrition and yoga class, a career conference, which we're planning for the fall, but started working on it now. We'll have a women's art exhibit, a green team sustainable gardening classes and activities, a book, and a film club on women's issues. If you'd like to download this PowerPoint presentation, it will be available in a couple of days at cwny.org/past-events. If you could please help us learn where you are from in New York. If you can please complete a very brief Google form that will be in the chat in a little bit. You just click on it and respond to a couple of questions there. And it helps us with funding for programs such as this one. If you dialed in, you can email your zip code to events@cwny.org. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat at the bottom of your Zoom screen. They will be addressed at the end of this presentation. If you dialed in, you can also email your questions to events@cwny.org. Now, Kathy Carroll. Kathy is a professional accountant. Just a sec. Enroll agent to practice before the IRS. She has been practicing accounting and providing bookkeeping services since 1981 to the present. She works with individual and corporate clients. She directed and ran the Student Association Income Tax Preparation program at Queens College for 26 years. She also ran an annual seminar at the International Students and Scholars Office at Queens College. These programs provided free on-campus tax preparation and advice to students. She received a BS in accounting from CW Post Center of Long Island University and attended graduate program at New York University. Kathy volunteers at the Center for the Women of New York as current treasurer and former vice president of finance. She provides job and vocational training, presents our financial literacy programs, and is the CWNY Work Readiness Program Advisor. Welcome, Kathy. you can take it away now.
Thank you, Cecilia. And Cecilia, I want to congratulate you and welcome you to your new position as president of Center for the Women of New York. And we're looking forward to great things and continuation of all the great programs that you've been involved with, including this webinar. And we also want to thank Victoria for all the hard work that she did in her term as president and for all the things that she's continuing to do. So thank you to you both and congratulations, Cecilia.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you. I'm very excited and committed to our mission at the center and looking forward to continuing the great work and enhancing the programs that we have and bringing new ones.
Yes, I think we're going to do very well. So
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So now tonight we have a continuation of the Female Financial Freedom series, which was a continuation of our Tax Trauma Terminated series in the beginning of the year. We are going to speak about budgeting this evening. Budgeting is the foundation of financial planning. So the overview from our last presentation, in the first presentation of this series, a lot of general information was presented, including many items that are typically considered in a financial plan. These items range from basic things such as one's weekly or monthly income and expenses, current planning, to more complex things such as how to plan for a home purchase, education, or retirement, which is future planning. As we discussed, good financial planning involves the establishment of goals. Financial goals can be reached through a strong foundation. That foundation is one of the items on the foundation is the creation of a budget. What is a budget? A budget is, very simply, a spending plan. This definition is taken from the textbook that we've been working with, Kapoor, the 6th edition. This can be found on page 54. In order to reach your financial goals, you must know what your income and expenses are and how this information affects what you hope to achieve. Nearly 3 in 10, 28% U.S. adults have no emergency savings, according to Bankrate's latest Financial Security Index. 1 in 4 have a rainy day fund, but not enough money to cover 3 months' worth of living expenses. And this information came from various sources on the internet, including bankrate.com, which is a good website to look at financial information, statistics, and data. And I think that overall, that's a fairly scary statistic. So it seems that a lot of people in the United States are in the same boat, that they do need to do some financial planning. After financial goals have been established, and ideally put into writing so they can be reviewed and revisited often, the first step in making a budget is to estimate your income. Although budgets can be made for any time frame, usually a period of 1 month is a good place to start, as many bills, such as rent, phone bills, utility bills, and car payments, are due once each month. In a more complex financial plan budget, you could do a different time period, maybe annually, because there are other bills that come up during the year that may have to be paid quarterly or annually. But just to start off, what we would look at bills that occur once a month. The most important consideration is that you will have enough available funds to pay bills each month as they come due. Most people receive pay from their work on a regular basis. The timing of pay often varies from company to company, however. Each employer has its own pay schedule, which will affect an employee's receipt of income, basically your monthly cash flow. For example, 2 people taking home exactly the same amount may have to plan and budget differently, depending on whether they are paid on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly schedule, as their money will be coming in at different times during the month. Almost anyone, when asked how much they make at their job, will speak in terms of their gross pay. For example, someone may say, oh, I make $52,000 a year. That may be very true, but many people do not keep in mind that they do not have $1,000 per week available to them, even if that is their salary. I use that number as the example because it's very hard. It's very easy to visualize that $52,000 is $1,000 a week. So while many items may be deducted from one's pay, the minimum deductions are FICA, which is Social Security, Medicare, and federal, state, and local income taxes. Just these minimum deductions may reduce one's take-home pay by about 25% per period. This would leave about $750 per week to budget for expenses and potential savings. So just because your salary is one thing, what you're taking home may be a different thing. And in the case of other deductions that may be taken out of one's pay, such as a 401k, or if an employee has to pay part of their health insurance, there's many things beyond just the minimum amount of tax that might reduce the take home even further. So it's obviously it's important to know what you're making at your job, but it's also very, very important to know what you're actually taking home and why it's that amount. In general, most people have the same categories of monthly expenses. Depending on one's age and income, the categories may be expanded to include additional items that would need to be paid each month. The most basic expense categories are housing, food, transportation, clothing, and utilities. A long-standing rule of thumb from published sources, these were also sources from the internet, StreetEasy, NerdWallet, their financial and real estate websites, is that one should not spend more than 30% of their gross income on housing each month. In the example just shown, 52,000 times 30% is $15,600. Divided over 12 months would be $1,300 per month for rent. However, this expense would actually be over 40% of one's take-home pay. $750 take-home pay times 4.3 weeks. Now, the reason we use 4.3 weeks is because some months have 31 days. So when doing financial calculations, a month is not 4 weeks, it's 4.3 weeks. So the take-home pay would be $3,225, which is 40.3% of the take-home pay. So it's in reality, it's a little bit different than what's put out there as a guideline. In our hypothetical example, we now know two of the major components. Take-home pay would be $3,225 monthly, and then rent would be $1,300 monthly. So then there would be left over for other expenses, $1,925. The next step would be to analyze the remaining monthly expenses to see where they fit into the budget. It is important to know the actual amount of the expense, not to just estimate it, and to know when it is due. Over the years, more and more people have placed bills on auto pay from their bank accounts. While this is very convenient as the money is withdrawn from your account automatically, it may cause one to lose sight of what the bills actually are over time. So in our example, the person has $1,925 left over for the remaining categories, possible categories being food, phone, electric, transportation, clothing. So then we divide the balance by 4.3 weeks. So then there's basically about $450 per week remaining after the rent is paid. So even though we're looking at this on a monthly basis, I did the weekly calculations because people just, as you go day to day, people spend money, they're just out and about, and money can be spent very easily. So if you look at it also at how much is left per week, that puts it in a slightly different perspective as well. So in the example, we're just using general amounts. Obviously, some people may have phone bills much more than what I'm saying, or electric bills much more than what I'm saying, but just in general, a phone may cost $60 to $100 a month. Electric may cost $50 to $80 a month. Food, $15 per day for 30 days. So could be more, could be less. This is just general information for purposes of the example. Now, transportation costs may vary greatly depending on whether one has a car or not. Owning a car has its own subset of expenses that would need to be budgeted beyond the actual cost of the car, purchasing it or leasing it. This would include gas, insurance, registration fees, and potential repairs. So all of that would have to be considered separately. But for purposes of this example, we're not going to consider that right now. So now we have considered $630 in monthly expenses in addition to rent. So now the budget looks like the monthly available income was $3,225. The rent was $1,300. Phone, electric, and food was $630. So now the remaining balance is $1,295. So based on the simple example, this person theoretically would have $1,295 remaining at the end of the month for any other expenses they may have, approximately $300 per week. Keep in mind that this is the simplest of budgets. The expenses that have been included, rent, etc., are called fixed expenses. They do not change from month to month. I have not included expenses that may be considered discretionary, not happening all the time, such as clothes. These are variable expenses. But this simple budget gives an idea of how not to overspend on monthly income and how to possibly have some money to put into savings or investments. The importance of timely payments. The lack of available funds could lead to late payments. Late payments usually cause a fee to be incurred, which is extra money spent, and could also harm credit, which can in turn delay the fulfillment of future financial goals. Even if a bill is paid one day late, the late fee may be significant, even if it will not be reported to a credit agency. As mentioned earlier, if payments are withdrawn automatically from one's bank account, that will avoid the chance of a late payment. However, if the funds are not available in the bank account, you may incur a bank overdraft fee, even if the bank honors the payment. So it is important in budgeting to avoid unnecessary and costly fees. Using just this simple example written down, one can see the importance of monthly budgeting. Many people say, I don't know where my money goes. The purpose of the budget is so you can know where it goes, so that you can stay focused on current expenses and future plans. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm sorry I didn't move the slide at the end there. I was like paying attention to what you were saying. And I just like I was too engaged listening to you.
Thank you.
I really like it's crazy how easy it is to lose track, because it looks like so much more money when you think monthly. Like this is like the example that struck my that caught my attention. You look at it monthly, and it's just like so different to look at it weekly. So it's like very helpful for me, and I'm sure for other people, like some other parts of the example are useful to look at it from a different point of view. Thank you so much for putting everything in perspective.
You're welcome.
the other thing that caught my attention is like the big percentage of adults in the United States not being prepared for an emergency. That's scary because in times like this, during COVID, for example, when so many people have lost their jobs and are suffering such instability, not having an emergency plan, it's very scary, and it can affect so many aspects of your lives. And we do see it in the phone calls that we get of women who are going through food insecurity problems. They're going through, like, of course, financial insecurity, housing insecurity. So this is very helpful for people to be ready and prepared. So thank you so much. I think we have a couple of questions in the chat. Let me read them to you. It's like, what do you suggest for savings for future plans?
Well, I think just to start off with, like, as I say, this webinar tonight, we just wanted to present this very simply. So I think that for just a starting off savings, I think just an actual bank account would be good to put money in. I know that obviously the interest rates right now are extremely low. It's like, if you're putting money in the bank, it's almost good to keep it at home. Then you're not getting much interest, but it gives you, it puts you in the habit of putting money into someplace other than buying something or keeping the money at home. So I think just to have like a savings account and a checking account is very important to just have the money visibly in an institutional setting.
Yes. I'm also very visual. So like if I see the money, it's not there available and it's somewhere else, like in a basket. It's per se, like in a savings account, it's much easier not to touch it. Thank you. There's another question. Read it to you. I have always struggled with depression. How do you suggest maintaining a budget when simple functioning is a challenge? Are there people who can help with that?
That's a very interesting question, because that touches on two different components. Obviously, the financial aspect of it is one thing, but the social part of it about having a condition of depression, I think that probably a social worker or maybe a therapist, if you have one, could maybe help with the financial situation too. Maybe they could suggest to you like how to get things in order or to set them up in an organized manner. So I think that would be a little bit more than just financial planning. That would be also to actually, get to some help with the depression situation as well.
Yeah, and if I may jump in for addressing that question, we do have a Women in Crisis support group. And if you need more support, we also have a social worker who would be willing to do one-on-one support. And if we're not a good fit or for whatever reason you need something more, we're also partnered with many organizations that offer social worker help. So please reach out. If you could send us an email, if you could put your email in the chat, that would be great. We can reach out to you, or send us an email. And Lana here, who's in the backstage. Lana, if you don't mind putting our email address, I know we're going to show it in a minute, but if it's in the chat, that'd be great. And I see your email, so thank you so much. We will reach out to you with the information of our support group for women in crisis. And it's very, women who come to the support group are very thankful. And also, it's nice to hear that you're not alone, that there are others who are going through similar situations. Not every situation is the same, but you're not alone. There are so many women during this time who are, and I just mentioned it before, many of our phone calls that we get are women in crisis, and depression, increases in times of crisis. It's a crisis that we all share. We're all in the same storm, maybe in different boats, but we're all sharing the consequences of COVID. So you're not alone. Reach out. We'll reach out to you. We'll try to guide you in the right direction. Thank you so much for that question and sharing. Is there any other questions? If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Let me see if I miss anything. Kathy, I also someone reached out and said she could not attend tonight, but she was going to watch the video. So I would like to ask you if you have any advice in terms of budgeting for young women who are not completely independent but are about to be, and how, what would be something, what's something that comes to your mind in terms of how do you start? What would be your advice for young women who are about to embark on, independent life?
Well, I think that's a great question, because nowadays, even much younger people are involved in finance, even if they don't realize it, because many, high school students and definitely college students have jobs. They have money concerns. They have things they spend money on, even if they're living with their parents. So, as we were using the example in the webinar, they may not have rent, but they may have a phone expense. I mean, even though many teenagers are on their family plan, could be that their parents may want them to contribute to the phone or contribute to other things in the house that they want that are not specific to, the parents. Like, let's say they want to get Netflix or something like that. So, especially if they are working, they should, follow the steps that we outlined here, see how much they're taking in, which in the case of a younger person, it may fluctuate from week to week, because maybe they work different hours each week. Maybe they only work part-time. Maybe they work more in the summer when they're not in school. Then during the school year, they work less hours. So it actually might be even a little more complicated for them, because since their money is not regular, they might, let's say they work more in the summer. They might have to really concentrate on trying to save some of that money, especially if they need to go back to school. Because even if they, even if they're not paying their own tuition, certainly when they're at school, they may have expenses, food, some entertainment, some books, things like that. So I would say that, teenagers should watch what their income is, what their expenses are throughout the year, maybe more so than on a monthly basis, since it would vary from month to month. And then if they want something extra, or if their parents are requiring them to pay into some, as I say, like a phone bill or something like that, they should be able to have that money on the side from their pay, instead of maybe just, going out and spending it all. And I know that some younger, people that I know, some college students, a lot of them seem to be involved lately in doing stocks, which I think is great, because stocks used to be, in my day and age, when I was younger, stocks were very difficult for people to do. It was very difficult to open accounts. There was a lot of fees involved. It was very difficult, except for actual adults. But nowadays, teenagers and younger people, they can open, a lot of them seem to have the Fidelity accounts, or E-Trade or Robinhood. And that's a very good place to start. Just don't put a lot of money in, but it gives you some knowledge about how the stock market works, which I think for younger people is absolutely fantastic. So that might be something that if a younger person has some extra money, they might want to look into that. Or they might just want to look into a conventional bank account as well, just to keep some money saved. But, I think for the more adventurous, that these stock accounts that younger people can open definitely would be something to look into.
Absolutely. And what an advantage to be a young person who's already thinking of this, right? I don't think when we were young, there were like webinars that taught you how to handle your money and how to plan for the future. But it may be hard to make that transition from not paying rent, as you said, from having your phone paid by your parents because you have a family plan, to go in and start paying for your own bills and having to use the same money you had for, extra for fun things, to go in and having the same amount for everything for basic needs. So thank you for this advice, Kathy. If there are any more questions, we will address them now. So please feel free to put them in the chat. Let me share my screen again. Here, there are some resources that are helpful for, like this is some tax. Like I know we are past that season, but it's always helpful to have them.
There's people on extension.
Right. Feel free to take a picture with your phone of these resources, so you have them. Again, these slides and this video will be available on our website. Thank you so much, Kathy. I don't think there are any more questions. Great presentation as always. If you would like to contact us, you can find us at cwny.org. That's our website. More information about our programs. You can watch past events, videos of our past events. We have 2 locations, Queensborough Hall and Fort Chawton addresses. Again, as I mentioned before, our email address is info@cwny.org. You can also follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we have a new podcast that we're working on. So follow us. Thank you all so much for having joined us. And we hope you join us next month for our next financial literacy series workshop, number 7 next month. Have a great night. Kathy, thank you again. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you, everyone attending.
And our social media and YouTube channel links are on the chat if anyone would like to click before we close the meeting. Looking forward to our next workshop, Kathy. I always learn something new.
Thank you. I'm glad. It's good.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending.